Welcome back, YouTube, to Icy Chap's Edge. I am Icy Chap, and I'm here with another knife review. You are looking at the Becker Brute. This is a knife that was designed by Ethan Becker and made by Camillus Knives, which is now out of business. The Becker line of knives, I believe, is being made by K-Bar, and I don't think the Brute is part of their production run. So I don't know if this knife is still available. I've seen some websites listed around $100. I actually bought it for much less than that several years ago, but if you can get a hold of it, it's a nice knife to add to your collection. Model number BK-1, blade 9.5 inches long, overall length of 15 inches. The steel is 0170-6C. That is very, very similar to 1085 or the SK5 that Cold Steel uses in a lot of its knives. 1/4 inch thick, 22 ounces in weight. The handle material was called GV6H. That's actually just fiberglass reinforced nylon. Very similar to a lot of folding knives. So let's talk about the Brute. First, notice the sheath. Kydex sheath, excellent, durable, never had a problem with the Kydex sheath. A lot of attachment points. As you can see, there's a webbing strap on it and slots to accommodate it. Knife actually came with this and a Fastex buckle so you could affix it to your thigh. With a knife this heavy, that's really important to be able to wear it low down on your thigh. And it had this belt loop. Although there was no quick attachment capability, it did have this buckle so you could hang it from a drop leg. Notice the drainage hole, feature that I really like, especially on a high carbon steel knife, because you want to keep moisture away from it. Really solid lockup with the sheath, good retention. Quick story, I used to carry a small survival pack which I would affix to the sheath. I could hang the knife and the sheath and the survival kit from a tree just by the lanyard, and the retention of the sheath would be enough to support it. So let's look at the Brute. That is one big heavy piece of steel. And I have to tell you, this was my favorite wilderness survival knife. I've since learned a lot, and I have a lot of experience with other knives, and experience has been my best teacher when it comes to selecting a survival knife. But I used to love this knife, and I'm going to tell you what I loved about it and then what I came to not love about it. First, look at the design. That recurve design, also known as a bolo, really made the knife an effective chopper. It had this section of steel here, which was the full 1/4 inch thickness of the stock, that really makes this a weight forward knife. You can chop into wood and split it pretty effectively with that really thick steel. The concave section of blade there made it pretty effective at cutting fabrics like nylon, pack cloth, that kind of thing, webbing, because you're attacking the cloth with a greater surface area. Why is that important? Similar concept to why serrations work on fabrics really well, because the strength of a fabric is really based on all the threads working together. And if you can attack the fabric at several points, you break it down faster. So this kind of recurve was effective for that, although, well, I'll get to what it was missing after. Another thing I really loved about this knife was the steel. I've actually pounded this knife against a rock by accident. I missed the log I was swinging at, and I hit a stone on the ground. Did not chip the blade, and I was swinging with full strength. All it did was really dent the blade about here and cause the steel to ripple a little bit. I was able to work that out with a diamond stone in, I don't know, under 10 minutes. And that, to me, is just amazing. If a knife can withstand that kind of punishment, then you know that the steel is very tough. I liked that the handle was so filling, thick slabs over the full 1/4 inch stock, was removable so you could replace it with another material if you wanted to, but more importantly, you could clean out water, dirt, anything that would get under there and could damage the steel. Accommodated a lanyard, I put very thick cordage there, and overall, I really enjoyed using it. I got a lot of pleasure out of it, but it had a lot of shortcomings, and I'm going to demonstrate that right now. Number one is this blade design, while it's a nice shape, really does not lend itself to a very sharp knife. You see how much steel they ground off towards the spine, and maybe that was to lighten the knife, but really what it did was create this bevel down the center, and what that does is two things. Number one, really doesn't let you get a very acute angle on that edge because you're starting in the center of the knife, aside from up at the spine. The other thing it does is it puts the center of gravity of the knife more towards the center, almost like a dagger, which you don't want with a big chopping blade. You want the center of gravity to be back towards the spine so that you can get a lot of weight behind that edge, a lot of steel behind that edge, and really pound it into wood and split the wood like a wedge. So not effective there. This anvil was kind of a cute idea, but in practice, all it really served for me was a place to pound on for batoning. I tried hammering pegs with this once, and it's just not wide enough, and what can I tell you, I wasn't accurate enough to hit with it. The handle, while it's filling, should have been textured. This fiberglass reinforced nylon is very slick when it gets wet, and they didn't put any texturing on it at all. They just made it a nice thick handle, but there's no texturing. No jimping on the spine and no finger choil. You can't choke up on this knife. With a knife this big and this heavy, that's a real shortcoming. You need to be able to choke up on this knife to have any utility for smaller tasks. That being said, nice broad blade. You can grab it and use it to scrape, which I actually did on more than one occasion. And I've also used this knife to dig with, and it kind of made a makeshift shovel. So a lot of things to like about it, a lot of things that I've since come to learn the knife was missing. But for me, it holds a lot of history and a lot of nostalgia. And if I knew what I knew now back then, I would not buy this knife. I would take a look at it, and in less than a minute I could say, no, that's no good, that's no good, that's no good. But back when I got it, I really loved the design and I really enjoyed using it. For that reason, I'm not going to say this knife is useless. It really now could only function as a kind of hand axe, and let's face it, a hand axe is going to be better than using a blade for that. So I'm going to give it a 6. I know that's a low mark for a knife that I really love so much, but I have to be honest, I wouldn't buy this knife today. If you wanted to purchase it, just to have as a collectible, I can understand that. And it's got a big, aggressive looking blade. It's a nice design, but for overall effectiveness, this is not a recommended choice to take with you on an excursion as your survival blade. Great sheath, and maybe you could find another knife that this sheath could accommodate. Great design, but I don't know if it's worth getting the knife just for that. So there you have it. There's my review of the Becker BK-1 Brute. I hope you enjoyed the review. Please leave comments and enjoy your day.